I'm Dr. Play, and earlier we talked about levels of relationships. How acquaintances become friends, friends become roommates, roommates become companions, companions become lovers. We all seem to understand from a logic standpoint what a roommate is. A person you share space with. You put up your share rent, I put up my share, you keep the common areas clean. We all understand that. But we're going to define this a little bit differently, and we're going to do that because my practice here in working with successful couples, I put together 9 characteristics that seem to be common to those advanced couples that we call them lovers. People say they're in love. Hear that all the time. I love you. I love my dog. I love my cat. I love the Yankees. I love sports. And yet here we're talking about a different type of love. We're talking about, can you be emotionally bonded to someone and have enough of those characteristics that are healthy, that is a very special relationship. So I'm going to talk about those 9 characteristics. We're going to start off with the first one, if you will. First of the 9 is commitment. I define commitment. I'll spare no emotional energy to problem solve in developing a lifestyle that we may stay together. I know that's kind of winded and wordy, but I will problem solve that we may stay together. That's the key. Commitment. I run into people all the time. They'll say things like, if you don't straighten your shit out, I'm leaving. Okay? The threat of abandoning a partner is not the kind of commitment we're looking for when I ask you to think about commitment. I will spare no emotional energy to problem solve in developing a lifestyle that we need to get together. Commitment. Second one, if you will. I love it. Unlimited disclosure. I'm going to put a word in there that's not there. Unlimited positive disclosure. Anything that I can tell you about me that helps you to understand me better, that's what this is about. All of us have times in our life where we've been stressed. My extrovert tend to shut down and become introverts. My introverted personalities tend to never shut up when they're under a lot of stress. But a lot of times, for me to tell you about those defining moments in my life that contribute to who I am, you got to do that. It's not a homework assignment, but if you want to build a lasting relationship, I've got to take those opportunities to share that with you. Okay? Third one I'm looking for, enhanced problem solving. Enhanced problem solving has to do with those energies I put towards the problem that needs to be solved. Remember I already said a relationship doesn't get any better than the problem it doesn't solve. And for some of us, when we're stressed out because I'm in school and it's exams and I have no time, or I'm working 2 jobs and I'm broke, and yet when we talk about relationships, the key is emotions. Am I emotionally available for you in this relationship? And those times that we're not emotionally available tend to be those times when problems, you ever hear the expression, that's the straw that broke the camel's back? That's the straw that broke the camel's back. The idea that there was just one more load and that was all I could take, and once that happened, I lost it. Well, I'm going to tell you that my perception is not the straw that broke the camel's back. My perception is, when did we start accumulating these unresolved problems that have become so common, so thick, so overburdening that we can't think straight. Enhanced problem solving. Common values and beliefs. Common values and beliefs. 1, 2, 3. One, number 4. Fourth of the characteristics. What's the difference between values and rules? I asked that to the earlier class. It's simple. Rules are how life regulates you from the outside. Values are how you regulate yourself from the inside. Values versus rules. I gave an example previously. One of the guys was sharing about how his dad had taught him the meaning of hard work and of buying those things for yourself that you feel that you want and you deserve and you've worked hard to get there. And he was telling me about how he was in a store where some of his friends were shoplifting. You know, and he said, man, I can't put myself in that position. There's no way that there's anything in that store that would force me to degrade myself, that I can't work hard enough to get it on my own, and I don't need to do it that way. Value system. Value system, not rules. Yeah, they got signs everywhere. Shoplifters will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. He said, they don't need sign for me. I don't need to do that. Because I look in the mirror and I feel bad about me if I do something. My values, my beliefs. Okay? Collaborative lifestyle. The key word, collaborative, is labor, co-labor. Remember, we're talking about love relationships. Life's what God gave you, style is how you lead it. Collaborative lifestyle. Is this life ours or mine? You know, I have lots and lots of couples that pretend to be in love relationships, and I'll be honest with you, they're just roommates, because when it's sports, he goes to football and she goes by her knitting group. He loves to fish, he goes fishing, and she goes out with her family. And they're truly roommates. When I sit down and talk to them and ask them what kind of life do they have together, the truth is they stay out of each other's way. Can you be happily married for 25 years plus and stay out of each other's way? Absolutely. But here's the dilemma. Your kids think that's what love is. Your kids, as they look for a partner, they look for a partner that's going to do what? Stay out of my way, just like my mom stayed out of my dad's way. Collaborative lifestyle. How do we make a life that's not mine nor yours, but ours? Yeah, cool stuff, right? Next one, positive sexuality. Positive sexuality. It's interesting because in an earlier group, the guys were completely stuck on sex. You know, if it's not sex, then I don't get this term sexuality. And I even said, is it possible that you guys might have a hot tub in your backyard where you sit in the hot tub, the moon's out, the air is, you know, the winter chill that first hits, we're drinking a glass of wine and we're naked, and we have nice music. So think about what I just said. We are sensually involved, enjoying some wine, some spirits, some music, and two of the guys said, not me, there's no way I can do that, because we're either going to get it on or we're not going to do that. Interesting, sexuality. Is it possible for me to be sensuous, affectionate? Is it possible for me to be with you on a physical level that doesn't involve sexual intercourse? Now, I'll be honest with you. In the earlier group, the answer was no. But when you do the same thing with women, they say absolutely. You'd be surprised how many women say, what is it with guys that they don't understand? Sex is different for us. We carry babies for 6-9 months, give birth. It hurts. Sex is a serious business. Sensuality means I'm more important than the act of making babies. Sensuality means I'm a human creature that's sensual. I'm feminine. It's important. Can you validate that? Now, just think about that, because I think it's relevant. Shared emotional identity. A shared emotional identity. You know, as I talk to different men and they tell me about those things, remember emotions, emotions, energies, emotions, those things that drive you from the inside, those things that motivate you, those things that you know, it's like the carrot from the stick. There are things in life I want. I was talking earlier, and one of the guys was talking about his goal is to finish college. And his goal is to be practicing in this field that's a reflection of his course study. I don't know about you guys, but going to school is not something I ever enjoyed. I'll be frank with you. If you think I got PhD behind my name because school was something I enjoyed, no. In my little school back in New Orleans, I graduated the bottom of my class. I hate school. I hate studying. I hate reading. To this day, I love audiobooks more than reading anything. But it got to be a point that all of you guys recognize you can't move forward unless you start accumulating some skill. And you got to step back and start to say to yourself, what do I want out of life? And when you start to really own what I want out of life, and you start to realize there are those things, energies that motivate me. What is it that I want out of life? My emotional identity. Am I a doctor? Am I a lawyer? Am I a truck driver? Am I a yard mechanic? What is it that gives you that emotional identity? Now, when I look at the pictures in the back here, and you see me with my family, Tyler, Juliet, and Carrie, my emotional identity is not just a reflection of what I do as a career, but it's also how that's a source to provide a family life for my kids, for my family. What is my emotional identity? Who am I? What's the whole picture? Understand it's a difficult picture for many of us because we know that A plus B equal? Yeah. Kids happen. And sometimes the person that I don't want to have an emotional relationship is the mother of my children. And sometimes we have women say the same thing. We had great sex, but guess what we got now? So I don't have an emotional identity with the father of my child. And it's quite possible that you may have an emotional identity with your stepchildren, children that aren't genetically yours. But you got to have it if you're going to be in an intimate relationship that's going to work. You have to have this notion of identity that we are, within ourselves, this very complex thing, this emotional identity. I see myself with you. I want to be with you. I want to make this work. Vision of the future, number 8. You know, I like this one. It's really easy. You can't drive the car forward if you keep looking in the rearview mirror. Maybe it's just me, but when I go out and I'm with Carrie and we meet other couples, maybe it just happens. I think sometimes we just do it because we're trying to show interest. We just ask, what do you do? Typically we're asking, what kind of job do you have, you know? And some guys answer the question differently. They'll say, yeah, no, I don't have anything going on. I'm looking for a job. I'm not sure what I want. I'm not sure where I want to go. That doesn't turn me on. I find that when you bring your energies together, that you actually have something you want, something you're working on, something that's important to you. What is your vision? When you have a vision, everybody works for it. Everybody works for it. We had decided when we left the military to go to school at Florida State. You have no idea how hard it was to commute 300 miles one way to go to school for 3 days and drive back. And you know what? I was so fired up on wanting a degree that could allow me to do this. I really didn't have any problems with driving the 4.5 hours to Florida State once a week. I had none. Now that that vision's gone, I got the degree on the wall, got my practice going. I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I hate the highway. I-4, it sucks. But at that point, that was so important to me, it really didn't matter. You ever hear the expression, no pain, no gain? If you know what you're working for, you'd be surprised what you can push through because it's something you believe in, your vision of the future. If you know what it is, advertise it, let people know. They will support you in ways that you never thought possible. And then finally, the one I'm looking for, the number 9 characteristic, is called a shared spiritual understanding. This is a difficult one. Some people go to church, and you know, I'm not a big church goer. I'm a big believer in prayer. I get more out of going to a institution that's labeled a church where just be alone in meditation and prayer. I get a lot out of it. That's for me. I believe there's a higher power out there, and I believe that that higher power cares about me, and I believe that I pray and prayer works. I talked to you a little bit earlier about, you know, when Carrie was in intensive care, and there was the time that she really wasn't expected to live. They gave her very, very slim odds. It was almost like an apology. You know, there's nothing we can do. We just got to wait. Well, we decided after she stayed alive for 5 days that they needed to try something, and so they did emergency surgery, cut her open and try to figure out why is it she's not getting healthy. As she came out of intensive care, as she came out of surgery and she was alive on, a heart-lung machine, a breathing machine. There's a lot of noise in the room, a lot of things going beep, 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 and just watch her from moment to moment. One thing I can tell you, though, is that while she was in that coma and while she was in this very, very difficult place, they actually had to put a heart monitor on her because they couldn't get a heartbeat. Couldn't tell if she was alive. That's how far down she had gotten. Well, I will tell you that I would not have told her grandmother died. When she went down and she was for that week in that place, I knew. But again, she's in a coma. And even if she'd come out of it, why would I tell her something that would hurt? Because it was her best friend. Her mom was her best friend. So she got to the point where they took the stuff out of the mouth and she could begin to whisper. And she had a pencil with a cork on it, and she could point at a picture. So if she wanted water, I'd give her water, and if she wanted to listen to something, she'd put the headphones, etc. And as she began to have the ability to whisper, and I am not making this up, guys, I'm going to get choked up. When I tell the story, I always get choked up. She whispered to me that she'd had a vision, and the vision was that her grandmother was holding our son. And her grandmother was talking to her saying, Carrie, you're not needed here. I've got your son. He's in good hands. You need to go back. You've got something to do. She's telling me this. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, remember the dimension outside the one we live in that affects the one we live in? I lived it, man. I lived it. And even though I've been a person that's been highly suspicious of prayer and church, I will tell you that I learned something from that event. There is a world outside the one we live in. And I think prayer works. But I think prayer has to be aligned with truth. Prayer can't be for a car because you want a 5-liter Mustang. Prayer can't be for things that are materialistic and of such value that they're tokens and they're not what life's about. But when you pray to be a good father, and you pray to help give me the tools, what can I learn to be a better dad? What can I do to be a better father with my kids, with my family? Yeah, prayer works. Yeah, and there is no price tag when it comes to prayer. Sometimes the blessings you get, yeah, you say, wow, that was really cool. I didn't expect to have all that good work for me. But it does work. One of the guys in an earlier class a couple of weeks ago had said he was praying for a good job because he had a sucky job. And he's standing in a line at Disney and he just happens to chit-chat with the guy behind him as they're standing in line at Disney. Turns out the guy was able to call him, internet, stay in touch, and all of a sudden he got this new job, the exact job he was looking for. And when he thinks about what are the odds that I would be standing in line with thousands of people walking from a parking lot, all competing to be in line, what are the odds that I would be in line with this person that happened to have the answer to the very prayer that I had? Yeah, I think prayer works, but sometimes we got to understand you got to do your job too. You got to advertise what your needs are. Let the world know what you want. But you just can't go sit inside a corner and watch TV. Okay? Anyway, those are the 9 characteristics. Commitment, unlimited disclosure, enhanced problem solving, common values and beliefs, collaborative lifestyle, positive sexuality, shared emotional identity, vision of the future, and a shared spiritual understanding. Again, I'm Dr. Blake. I hope you enjoy this. Thanks, man.